Aaron,
Hi, John.
how are you?
Hanging together. How about you?
Interesting day.
Yes, it has been. Hopefully,
Politics
a
is
smooth one.
politics is a strange animal.
Yes, it is. Hopefully, I'll figure out how to run this meeting appropriately, but we'll see.
Oh, you did fine the other night.
So far, there's 8 of us.
I think you're gonna have more. We're gonna have probably have good 25 tonight.
We had 67 at the last one.
Is that right? Oh
Yes,
my
sir.
gosh.
Yeah.
Thank God everybody didn't speak or want to speak.
Well, I automatically muted them coming in, so.
Aaron, how do you feel?
A little tired, a little weak, but getting better.
Oh,
Hey, Larissa.
hi, John. How are you?
Good, honey. How are you?
I'm very aggravated. I'm being bombarded with all these emails, from different people. Everybody wants us to do in-person voting. People have some nerve,
Well,
especially Zuki, sitting safely in Florida. He demands us to go and do it in New York. Unbelievable. I
Here's what
just
it
res-
is.
I just responded to him. I didn't even see you.
Just ignore them. We'll talk offline when this is over.
Okay, all right. Did you see my text I just sent you?
Check.
Text.
I said I'll double check.
Oh, okay.
About a half an hour ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw it.
okay. So we're gonna wait till 8 o'clock, right?
Well, we're gonna wait till more people come on, at least till 8 o'clock.
Okay, then I'm gonna go downstairs and do something I need to do,
Okay.
right?
If
I
you
have
want-
12 minutes.
I've tried to reach you on your phone, but you haven't been picking up.
Did you really? Oh my
Yes.
God. How did that happen?
I get your
Did you leave?
message.
Okay, let me go check it. Can I call you now? We can go on mute.
Sure, just go on mute. I'll try to make it quick.
Make sure you're on mute because I can still hear you.
Okay.
still don't hear
Yeah, I do. Yeah, they can hear us too. But they can't see us. Hmm?
You can't hear the one?
Sorry,
You're saying we can't hear this.
we'll be singing.
This one? I guess it's not.
No, it's not. There's no talking to him.
Okay, okay. He's talking.
No, Joe.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Your lips have to move.
Okay. I thought he was.
No. So, look,
Hello, Aaron.
Hi,
Ken Dengler.
yep, good to hear you. If you would like to be visible, you can turn your camera on. Okay, we got about another minute or so before we get started. Okay,
Hey,
it's
Aaron,
just-
can you hear me? I'm just testing my mic.
yes, it's just turning 8 o'clock now. We're gonna wait another minute or two. The recording is on, so be aware of that. All right, let me outline the procedures we expect to follow for this meeting. As I said, it's being recorded. And if you would like to contribute anything verbally, please ask to be unmuted and we will authorize that. The persons who are running for village office will be introduced first. And I hope everybody has a copy of the agenda so that we can follow it. And we'll move forward starting now. So the meeting is now officially called to order. This is the Meet the Candidates debate meeting of the 2022 election season. And I am Aaron Stern, the chair of the caucus. And with us are the other members of the executive committee. Larissa Wayne Palmeno, who's the vice chair. Excuse my voice. Brian Crowley, who's the secretary. Zach Giampa, who's the treasurer. And our two members at large, Clarissa Giosha and Ken Dengler. I'm trying to make sure I don't forget to admit everyone as they come in, so bear with me. Okay, we've now got 64 participants in the meeting, 65. Almost the same number we had for our nominating meeting last Wednesday. And we'll proceed. First, I would like to introduce the candidates who were nominated at the meeting last Wednesday. And they are nominees for 2 village trustee positions. Kevin Hunt, who's a current trustee. Rhea Mallett. And Jeffrey Allen. You will have an opportunity to introduce yourselves and make an opening statement. And each of you will have 3 minutes to do that before we get into the question and answer session. So, excuse me. Let me just admit a few more people and we'll move forward. Okay. We'll start with the opening statements. And Mr. Hunt, if you would be good enough to give your opening statement, we would appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. So why am I running for a third term? It's a fair question to ask of anyone already familiar with the long hours, the complex work, and the uncomfortable position of knowing you will, at times, make the right decision that still upsets some of your friends and neighbors. The answer? I love this village. It is my home. I'm a sitting trustee, a volunteer firefighter and EMT, and the president of the Briarcliff Manor Rotary Club. And it is my great joy to give back to this village. This particular board has done some amazing work over the past few years. I've been very proud and engaged through all of it. We're right in the middle of a whole bunch of really important initiatives, many of which could impact the village for decades to come. There's still a lot of work to be done, and we can discuss more tonight. This board is a great group of collaborative people. Everyone on it is smart and committed, which is a very good starting point, and has critical institutional knowledge, relevant complementary skills, and experience critical to tackling the work at hand. Everyone carries his or her weight. This year, there will be at least one new member to this group. I will really miss Sabina. The remaining board members, Steve Vesio, Peter Chatsky, and Ned Midgley, have all strongly encouraged me to run again. 16 plus years in the fire department seems like a long time. 4 years on the board of trustees, not so much. It excites me. Bringing on 2 new members to the board will not be helpful in maintaining the momentum. Streetscapes, land use, staffing challenges, budgeting, and the like do not wait. A new board is sworn in the first week of April, and the village budget must be finalized by the end of the month. Sometimes change is needed, but this board is certainly not in any need of rescuing. What it needs is continuity with committed members who all have complementary professional skill sets that can add to the process right away. In my first year on the board, I championed the billing for the ambulance services for the village. It was a lot of work, but in just a few years, that effort has saved the village nearly $1 million from insurance reimbursements. I got that from being very, very involved in the fire department. One of the biggest eye-openers in my first year was getting up to speed on how government works. It's very different from my experience in the private sector. My fellow board members and the village managers have been enthusiastic mentors. That learning process still continues. I want to be a trustee for another term. I really do believe that the residents of Briarcliff want the same thing. I urge every resident to be engaged in this process and to make a decision to pick the best candidates based on background, proven commitment to the village, and ability to contribute meaningfully and very quickly. There is a lot of work to be done in the very near term. Please help keep this momentum going. Thank you for your attention and your support.
Thank you very much for your opening statement, Mr. Hunt. Now we'll turn to you, Rhea Mallett, to make your opening statement, please.
Thank you. I just want to make sure you can hear me because my microphone wasn't working before. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you to the caucus and everyone present tonight. Hi, everyone. My name is Rhea Mallett. You might have seen some of my lawn signs around the village. I want to share with you who I am and why I should be your choice for Briarcliff Manor Village Trustee. I'm a Columbia University Law School graduate with legal and government experience and a record of dedicated volunteer commitment to our community. I worked for the mayor of New York City, and in that position, I created and implemented citywide policies. I collaborated with public and private agencies and organizations to establish best practices, and I helped coordinate the response of many city agencies, including the New York City Police Department, Human Resources Administration, and the Administration for Children's Services. I will bring to the Board of Trustees all of this government experience, as well as my additional work advocating for legislative reform at both the state and local levels. I am seeking this position because I believe that my background and expertise can help the many challenges and opportunities currently facing Briarcliff Manor. I am completing a master's in environmental law from Pace University's Law School this year, where I'm specializing in land use and sustainable development. The village is improving our downtown through the Streetscapes program. This board has positioned our CT zones to bring in tax-paying commercial development. And we have an owner seeking a special use permit for the former Pace property. I would like to bring my years of legal and planning legal experience and planning expertise to these land use issues. I am doing this to help our village manage the opportunities and the challenges for the benefit of all residents so that we can continue to attract great residents so that our downtown thrives for all of us. And that, so most importantly, that future growth is sustainable, school-friendly, and protective of our environment. Thank you for your consideration of my candidacy for the trustee of the Village of Briarcliff Manor.
Thank you very much for your opening statement, Rhea. We appreciate it very much. And now we'll turn to Dr. Jeffrey Allen for his opening statement.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for participants on this call. I would like to run as an independent candidate with no other agenda but to serve this community where we have been residents for 43 years. We've raised 3 of our children here who have graduated from the high school. We've participated in many community activities and have really gathered many long-term friends and acquaintances over the years. I have basically retired from a 45-year career as a physician and running complex programs involving the neurologic health of children in pediatric neurology and neuro-oncology, and caring for kids primarily with primary brain tumors. I've had extensive administrative background running these programs, training residents and medical students, and conducting collaborative research. And also I'm a practitioner of team approach to complex problem solving. I now have retired, and I would like to devote more time and energy to serving this community, which my family has benefited from so much over the past 43 years. I feel that my role as a healthcare professional would add a unique voice to the deliberations of the board. And I would like to propose some new ideas, which I would promote over my service as a board trustee, to include some ideas as helping to organize a farmer's market near the center of the village, where various community activities could thrive and we could bring business to the downtown area. I would also like to promote a master plan for sidewalks or something similar, where we can encourage our residents to engage in safer walking activities and walking on our car-filled roads. And lastly, I would like to try to ensure some peace and serenity on our own residences, where there would be control of the noise and air intrusions that we've experienced from various lawn care services, where the time of the day, the days of the week, and the months of the year might be more carefully controlled. And this has been implemented in various communities around us and proposed as a regulation by several state legislatures. Thank you for your attention, and I certainly would elaborate on any further questions.
Thank you. Pardon me. Thank you very much, Dr. Allen. And I would be remiss if I didn't alert everybody I'm still recovering from COVID, so my voice is a little muted, and I hope everybody can hear me clearly. My brain fog is clearing up, so hopefully I won't make too many mistakes tonight.
Okay.
In any event, we're ready to start our Q&A session, and in accordance with the traditions of the caucus, when there is an incumbent running, we provide a series of questions to all of the candidates to give them an opportunity to educate themselves as to the topics that are going to be discussed. And we have solicited questions from our members, several of whom have submitted them to me, and I will ask them in an orderly fashion. We may not get to each of the questions that we submitted to them because there have been some new ones, but we'll try to stay as close to it as possible. All right, we're going to start the process going from Mr. Hunt to Ms. Mallett to Mr. Allen. And then we're going to reverse the order for the next questions. And in addition to having 2 minutes to respond to each question, each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the comments made by others or to add anything they believe they forgot. And we'll wrap it all up with closing statements that will be permitted, and at the option of the candidates, either take additional questions or give up to a 3-minute closing statement. So let's start with the first question, which was submitted by Joan Austin. The original streetscape plan presented to the village envisioned replacing diagonal parking in the central business district with parallel parking. It also proposed reducing northbound traffic on Pleasantville Road from 2 lanes to 1 lane. Question is, do you agree with the proposal as presented, or do you believe other modifications are in order? And we'll start with you, Kevin.
Yes, indeed. Streetscapes is a very interesting proposition. The question as presented is a bit difficult to answer in addressing the entire streetscapes issue. I have been a part of this for the last few years, and this has been going on for a few years now. And the most important thing I think that we've done as trustees is to really listen to what everyone's saying, all the different stakeholders. And unfortunately, I think to reduce this discussion to just parallel parking, streetscapes is not about parallel parking. It's a part of it, no question about it. But I think the real issue is we all agree that streetscapes is something that's supposed to help improve the downtown business district. I have yet to meet someone who says, oh no, it's fine, leave it just the way it is. Now it's just a question of how we actually wind up doing it. And streetscapes is by no means fixed. We did look at a lot of different things with a lot of different inputs. And one of the things that our consultant suggested was to take a look at parallel parking. So that's a part of it. Well, it's not anywhere near done. So no one's shoving parallel parking down anyone's throats. This is about figuring out what is the best way to be able to get the improvements on the downtown business district to make it something that everyone's proud to be a part of. And that takes a lot of temperament. I've had people yell at me saying, oh, you do this, you're going to ruin the village with this parallel parking. And you can stop. You don't have to agree with them. Listen to what they're saying, because that's the most important thing. And then have a discussion about it, and not necessarily push any sort of agenda on them, not tell them that they're wrong. This is the kind of thing, the kind of temperament I think you have to have as a trustee in order to be able to even begin to make a difference. Because it isn't just about sitting in board meetings on Tuesday nights. Anyway, that's about my 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt, and thanks for staying within the 2 minutes. Rhea, it's your turn.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I found this to be a really interesting question because after attending the Board of Trustees meetings, there was actually no indication that this was the final plan at all. But the fact that the Board of Trustees, which has been working on this for 4 years, even before this administration, did conceptual drawings is fabulous. The fact that we're all talking about parallel parking or not parallel parking is exactly what we want a Board of Trustees to do, to get public input. And this Board of Trustees did that by doing a conceptual drawing. Other than cosmetic improvements, including fabulous ones by the Beautification Committee, so kudos to all of you out there who are on it, the Central Business District has not been touched for 50 years. There are 2 priorities moving forward: safety and pedestrian friendly. We need safer street crossings. We need to reduce the number of accidents per year. There are more accidents in our little village than nearby villages and towns because of the setup and the traffic flow of our downtown. We need to fix the safety paramount. The other thing we also need to do is not only make it pedestrian friendly, and we also need something called placemaking. Placemaking is creating opportunities for people in the downtown area to stop, to enjoy, to just be there. We owe it to our residents and our merchants and all of the visitors to Briarcliff Manor to create a downtown where people want to stay and buy things and meet their friends and be part of this wonderful community.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mallett. And Dr. Allen, if you can take a turn on it, we'd appreciate that.
So I listened to the presentation at the board with its consultants several times and familiarized myself with the plan. It seems like it was designed to facilitate traffic flow, pedestrian safety, and increase the sidewalk space for the merchants, and also to eliminate several hazards which apparently were related to the growth of the trees and the acorns that fell from the oak trees. Now, I think the intent was certainly there. I don't think the streetscape project attempt to address the big picture of how to use this downtown commercial area over the next 20 to 30 years. It seems like the scope was just limited to those particular areas. And what impressed me was the pushback from the merchants and some of the various callers who phoned in to complain. So it didn't seem that there was enough consensus and agreement that this was the better or even preferred plan. So I think that still there's a lot of work to do, and we need more input from townspeople. It's a small area and geographically confined by 9A, by the golf course, and by the residential and community buildings nearby. So it's very difficult to make major changes down there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. Now, do any of the other candidates wish to respond to what they've heard from their competitors? Starting with Mr. Hunt.
Sure, I will. First of all, I love what Rhea said. I mean, she has a good feel for it. To say that this has been a short-sighted project, I mean, we're adding parking spots. We're looking to do all sorts of different parking in the back, try to reconstruct this whole thing, all for the point of making it a good playing for the future. So I appreciate Dr. Allen's input, but I'm not sure I quite understood it anywhere near where he was coming from, though, unfortunately, because it seems to have missed to say that this board has missed the bigger picture, I think in itself misses any sort of picture.
Ms. Mallett, do you have any comments?
Thank you. Yes, I also wonder if something is being lost in translation. So I want to make it very clear, because we have a very large audience watching. Streetscapes is a process. It is a long process. It involves input from the public. It involves input from the community. There is absolutely no understanding by anybody on the Board of Trustees that what we saw as a conceptual design was anything near the end or the plan for the next 20 years. It was a step in the process. That's what being on the Board of Trustees, that's the biggest skill we need, is people who understand how to use the process, use their talents and skills to push the ball forward with community input. The fact that we're talking about it here again is fabulous. I want to say one more thing. It is not the Board of Trustees' role to create the plan. It is their role to get the experts to provide the options, and that includes engineers, streetscape designers. It includes experts on how to revitalize small communities, space, present those options to the public and get feedback. And that's exactly what this board is doing. And honestly, it is because they're getting so much public input. I do think I would go out and get even more and be more proactive. But it's why I want to join this board, because they are including the community in their decision making.
Okay, Dr. Allen, do you have any comeback?
Yes, Kevin, listen, I'm only arguing for continuing to discuss like Rhea suggested and listen and perhaps even come up with changes if necessary. There are certain issues that I don't know how they're easily resolvable, such as the use of this village center as a bypass by people who are trying to get around, all that traffic on 9A. And these are given issues here, and they're going to require some careful thought. So I'm happy to continue. I have my own ideas, which I won't necessarily share right now, having used this village for so long, that I would like to air out with the board. So that's where I'll leave it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Allen, and it makes me recognize that I wish I had expanded the question to try and figure out what kind of timetable that the board intends to meet to implement streetscape. Anyway, let's move on to the next set of questions. And we've now got 94 participants. We're pretty soon going to reach our 100 participant limit. The second question relates to what are known as the former B zone properties, now called the CT zones. We'd like to know what procedures are being followed to obtain the necessary approvals that will have the result of restoring these properties to the assessment rolls, whether it be as commercial properties or residential properties or any other options. And we'll start with Dr. Allen.
As I understand it, there were 5 commercial properties historically, which had a B zone categorization, and there was concern that these properties were not being advanced to the tax rolls because of the limitations by that zoning classification. So over the last, I guess, couple of years, they've now reclassified these 5 properties to what they call a CT zone. And I'm learning exactly what that means, but there are many more special use permits that are being authorized for these. And as a result, I think that these properties, which are spelled out on a map online, have been negotiated for, and one of the properties has been purchased, the Phillips property, by a developer who wants to now build houses there, and that was not part of the CT zone permission. So that has been rejected by the board, but there are a number of other properties that are being considered, and that's one on Route 9 by a wine warehouse facility, and it sounds like that negotiation is going well. So we need to work harder to get these other properties on the tax roll, and one of them is available for actually mixed residential and commercial use. That's off Pleasantville Road. So I think there is progress. It's going to require some probably tax abatements and better real estate advertising, but I think there's a good future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. We appreciate your response. Rhea, it's your turn.
Okay, so I just didn't understand everything Dr. Allen said. So let me just start back, and I'll save that for the 1-minute response. But let's take a step back to what this board did when it was elected originally. The first thing this board did was put a moratorium on development on the B zone properties, and did years, I'm going to say years, it might have been 1.5 years or 2 of public hearings so everyone could weigh in. That's exactly what you want your board of trustees to do, to stop and assess what are the needs of the village for these very large tracts of land. After a very long process with incredible amount of community and public input, it rezoned property as a CT zone, just so everybody who's listening understands what we're talking about. The CT zones actually expanded the type of corporate use that could go into them. I believe it's 13 additional uses in those zones from what we had before this board of trustees took office. what is happening is because of that expansion of use, we are getting much more interest in the long vacant properties than ever before for those that are not yet being used. We want it to stay corporate use because we need the tax revenue without stressing our school system. So let's look at what's happening on those 5 CT zones. I'm sure Kevin will have more details, but on Route 9, the one that's on Route 9 is now operating as a very low impact data center, and it's working beautifully. Tax revenue, minimal impact in our community on our services. The former Sony building on Route 9 that Dr. Jeffrey Allen was referring to is in fact going to be a wine storage use, but it's not a wine storage building where the public is going to come into. There's gonna be very minimal traffic impact, again, in our community, but tax revenue. The third property on Scarborough is being tested as a solar farm. There's some testing going on, so that is not yet completely done from what I know, being a member of the public, just like you, and just listening and going to board meetings. In the 2 remaining properties, there has been a lot more interest than ever before. So the CT zoning designation, which is new in the past few years, is working to the benefit of our schools and our community.
Thank you, Ms. Mallett. And Mr. Hunt, do you have anything to add to this?
Sure. Again, and I think this is I believe the board has done a big job with this. And I think that when the board had a big turnover a few years ago, the CB zone properties were the touchstone that really caused that big change. And there was a real sort of pressure to get this done. There was a moratorium and we did look at it, but there had been projects done before that. There was the B zone panel that was paneled by the residents. So a lot of input from that. So this thing has been studied. It is way too easy to be able to just to give up and throw up your hands and say, fine, let's just have them build houses. But again, that does have a lot of impact on the community in general. We need to have some sort of a presence that isn't residential. One of the things I wanted to bring up was with this the Sony property, there was a suggestion that they have it be a self-storage facility. And residents got very upset about that. They said no. And the board listened. And we took a look and said, we think it might be okay, but they don't think it's okay. Anyway, there's a lot of back and forth in that. So that did not go forward. Okay. Then this specialty warehouse came up as another use that we could consider. We can be flexible. That one I think is going to be brilliant. It just underscores the kind of thinking that this board's been doing and the kind of disposition you have to have in order to be able to make good sound judgment on these issues, which affect everyone for years and years to come. If you build residential on these things, it's never going to change back. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Mr. Allen, do you have any comments you'd like to add?
Not really. I'm sure Kevin has much of inside knowledge about the deliberations of the board, and I know they're trying. And I think they're moving some properties along, and hopefully we'll see the revenue results eventually. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Mallett, your turn.
Thank you. So the entire acreage of Briarcliff Manor is just under 6 square miles. So we have about 3,600 acres of property, of land. Only 6% of that is zoned commercial, 6%. So we need to keep our commercial properties for our taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt, did you want to add anything?
Only that everyone understands that this is not supposed to be a residential thing, and residential is not really a part of this CT zone. And that is one of the reasons we do want to make sure that we don't rely 100% on residential for our tax base.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the next question, and this will be directed first to Rhea. I apologize for calling you by your first name. I hope you don't mind. The new owners of 235 Elm Street, the former Pace University property, have submitted a plan for use of the property as a yeshiva. to the extent you know where the proposal stands and can comment on what the next steps are, we would appreciate hearing from you. And do you have any views on the types of things that the village should be considering in negotiations with the property owner to move it forward? Rhea?
Yeah, thank you. So this is a very important issue. I think everybody will agree in front of the board. The owners own this property, and we as the Board of Trustees has to make sure that all use is compliant, not only with our local laws, but also the village's comprehensive plan. What the Board of Trustees must do going forward, and in their it's not even the negotiations, but in looking at the application, is to make sure that any conditions of use of the special use permit are enforced, and that any ongoing conditions of the special use permit are maintained. And the Board of Trustees, I think, is thinking in the right and moving in the right direction, because they very recently hired a designated code enforcement officer. And I think a lot of the problems when you see stories in the newspapers about properties that aren't maintained, they're not looking at it the way this village is looking at it. We have to make sure that the owner and how the application gets resolved actually complies with the special conditions and any conditions of the special use permit. In terms of, I can't comment on ongoing negotiations. I can say that the board has retained, the village has retained an excellent land use firm, a special counsel in this situation, that as an attorney with land use expertise, I'd be able to help understand and communicate not only to the Board of Trustees, but also to the public where we are if I was seated on the board. Thank you.
I modified the question, but I'm going to add a piece back to it that was there originally. Do you consider it a possibility to seek a pilot payment from the new owner, in recognition of the fire, police, ambulance, and sanitation services that the village would be providing? Kevin, it's your turn.
Okay, why not? We'll change it up. I want to capitalize on what Rhea just said. First of all, I think that one of the things that I've been very impressed with just being on the board in general is to realize that everyone on the board is very smart, but everyone on the board realizes they're not smart about everything. And this one particular thing, I think, is really important that we all sort of understand that we do need to have a fresh perspective. If we can get a fresh perspective by hiring a special counsel who has in the past represented the yeshivas in other areas. So we have somebody here who knows both sides, who can represent our interests as well as anybody could possibly manage. That is, I think, roughly brilliant. And he's been absolutely terrific and very level-headed. This is all about making sure that we have a legal standing based upon a landowner, a property owner who has rights as a property owner. This isn't about anything like, we have to make sure they follow the rules, and we have to make sure our rules are all well set out. And we've done all of that. We've set up rules. I think it's chapter 220-6, or I think that's something like that anyway. So, but it gets into hairy details, but all of that's been laid out. And we have a great set of rules. They know exactly what they're going to do. They've submitted their original proposal, and they've gone back 3 or 4 times to make sure that proposal is complete, so that when we come up with some sort of an agreement for a special use permit to which they are entitled, they know exactly what the rules are, and we're able to enforce it. So I'm not sure what better stead we can be in other than to be able to do what we need to do and stay a very, very legal aspect of it. You can't get around that.
Thank you. Mr. Allen, do you have any comments on it?
So I really agree with most of the comments that have been made, and I have no inside knowledge as to the extent of the negotiations and discussions so far. To address one question that you raised, Aaron, which was whether there should be any pilot type agreement or a payment in lieu of taxes for services that the community would render. I understand this is a relatively new concept that we don't apply to other religious or educational existing institutions in the community, but that we are considering applying it to new members. And so this is something I think that should be actively discussed and probably a fair subject to entertain and request funding, from what I can gather.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Rhea, do you have any comment on what you've heard from the others?
Yeah, I think Jeffrey Allen just said that it would be fair to look at doing a payment in lieu of taxes for the synagogue, but even though we don't do that for all of the churches and other religions in our village, as an attorney, I have to tell you that could put the village, it raises a really serious legal question that whether or not such actions would be discriminatory towards one religion over another, which could put us in great legal liability risk. So I don't think that's the way forward. I also I'm not even sure that you can do payment in lieu of taxes on a religious institution in New York State. I would have to double check, but I would venture to say that is not even legal.
Thank you. Any other comments from the candidates? All right,
Yeah, sure, I'll make one. Everything that Ray has just said is actually right on target. Payment in lieu of taxes is for very specific things. And this is a religious institution, which is a school. They don't make much of a distinction on that. So it is a big property. And I think there are some other issues associated with that property that definitely need to be addressed. And we shall. I don't want to get into the details because it still winds up becoming somewhat of a contentious thing. But I understand that people are concerned. And again, listening to what the people say, even if they're wrong, you have to listen to what they have to say. And this is not about do we let them in or not. They're in and they have a right to use their property. And now we just have to find a way to make sure that everyone follows the rules that are set forth and that the expectations are managed brilliantly. And I think we're well on our way to be able to make sure that happens. Time will tell, but I think we're definitely on the right track.
thank you. And I left you out on the last opportunity for a comment on it, Dr. Allen, if you have any.
Yes, Rhea, I don't contend to be an expert in this matter, certainly from a legal standpoint. I think this is not as I understand it, a strict religious institution like a church or a synagogue. This is a school. It's a school with religious intent. I don't know what the precedents are in our state or in other counties, but I think it deserves investigation. And I think a new institution, not an old one, and not a pre-existing one. The question is a reasonable one to ask. And it may turn out that you were right, that it's unfair and illegal, but I think we can ask the question.
Thank you,
Can
Dr.
I
Allen.
respond to that, Aaron?
You had your 1 minute response already.
Oh, okay.
We'll move on to the next question. The Route 9A North problem that this village has lived with for multiple years has moved to the State Transportation Department with a request to study it for safety and flood control improvements. Do you know what the status of that is and when we can expect a response? Mr. Hunt, you're first on this one.
This is a lesson in how slow government works, frankly. I know that it's passed the New York State Senate in terms of doing a study for the corridor. I don't believe it's passed the Assembly yet. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done. We have had solicited a great amount of resident input in terms of writing letters to the representatives.
You're frozen, Mr. Hunt.
This is not something that's going to be solved right away. It continues to be a very dangerous area. I've been in countless number of accidents on that place, and the good news is one of the North State Road and 9A, which has always been one of the single most dangerous places in the entire village, has been greatly improved. And a lot of work went into that too, preceding when I got on the board. So it's not, it certainly is on top of everyone's mind. This is something that's going to take some time. And as the board continues to solicit resident input and to reach out to the representatives, that will always be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. It's your turn now.
So I really don't have any inside knowledge other than personal experience. And I listened to the report of our mayor, Steve Vesio, last night at the board meeting. And he's, this is his area of expertise. I think he's working very hard with the board to collect the evidence, to negotiate with the Department of Transportation authorities in the state. And I think there are some constraints regarding their personnel and budget. And this problem probably, Kevin, will not be resolved in the near future. But that doesn't mean we can't try and continue to write letters and ask our Congress persons and state officers to help. I think it probably has improved, but it's still that road and that intersection disconnects the two commercial areas of our village, and is not an easy place we can safely cross. So improvements still need to be made, and it's not, hopefully not final.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Rhea, do you have anything to add to this?
I think we all agree that it's a problem and it's a safety problem, and we need state funding and attention on it. So I have actually a lot of experience doing legislative reform at the state level. And I was really impressed because this is the first time that Briarcliff Village actually led a village-wide campaign to get the sort of attention you need from your state senator and your state assemblywoman, which is what they did. So in anticipation of this meeting, I did reach out to our state representatives to find out, where is it? Why hasn't it passed? And what I did ascertain was, as much as people think, understand how important it is, I was told that there are other legislative priorities that are just as expensive or more expensive, which are above it in the list of things to do in New York State. Having that information, we could hopefully use that to move forward and use it towards further advocacy for the village and to get that solved.
Mr. Hunt, do you have any additional comments?
Like I said, this is going to take a while. It's something that is certainly worthwhile, something worth keeping on top of mind. And I think this board has done a terrific job doing just that. Again, there will be some solution to it. I know that there will be, because we're just working really hard at it.
Thank you. And Dr. Allen, are you done with comments on it?
No further comments.
Thank you. I will add one. Our assemblywoman is retiring, not standing for re-election. This might be a prime time to seek funding through the assembly or through the opportunities that exist for obtaining such funding from those persons who intend to run for the office. I understand that Dana Levenberg has thrown her hat in the ring for that, and there's at least one other candidate. So I encourage the board to follow up with that. We're coming to the last question you've been provided, and then we have some that have been submitted by others, and if time permits, we will run them. This last question is, should you be successful in winning the People's Caucus endorsement for village trustee, what is the most important thing that you would hope to accomplish during your tenure? And Mr. Allen, it's for you to start.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. First of all, I think this village is very fortunate to have three very highly qualified people, and not only qualified in their own professions, but they bring unique attributes to the board. I think in my historic experience here in this village, there's not been a physician who served on the board. And I would bring a unique background and skill set to the deliberations of the board, not in the traditional legal and business and the construction realm, but in healthcare. And there are probably some not only contemporary but future measures that deserve more attention. And I certainly would be willing to head any committees or proposals to advance them. I mentioned a few of those issues in my presentation. I do have an abiding commitment to serve this village, and I would like to find a way to do it. I think the board may be one forum, but that's up to the voters to decide. So thank you for your attention, and I would appreciate your support.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Rhea, it's your turn to respond.
Can you just please repeat the question?
Sure. Should you be successful in winning the People's Caucus endorsement for village trustee, what is the most important thing you would hope to accomplish during your tenure?
Thank you. Overall, this board has brought greater transparency to our village government, but overall, I would like to expand that and be more proactive. By serving on village committees, I have seen that there are people in the village who feel like their voices are not heard. I think it's important that we get out in the community and make sure all voices are heard all the time in village government. But my very specific goal, given everything we just talked about in these past few questions, the CT zones, the 235 Elm, the downtown streetscapes program, my very specific goal is to ensure that the future growth in Briarcliff is sustainable, school-friendly, and protects our environment, because we have an obligation as Board of Trustees to ensure that the semi-rural character and bucolic nature of Briarcliff remains for our generation and our children's generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have additional comments on that? All right, we'll move forward to the next question.
Kevin,
Do you want me to go, Aaron? You said
Please,
additional comments.
I apologize. I'm a little off.
No, I understand. I'm sorry, you just caught me off guard a little bit, that's all.
Good question.
I thought you grew tired of me already, which would be really hurt my feelings. But the number one thing for me is obviously keeping the momentum that's going. This board has done a terrific job. I think we're heading in the right direction. I think we got a lot of good things going. If I think there's one thing we could probably improve a little bit, maybe it is somehow communication, because one of the things I found frustrating in my discussions with particular the store owners on streetscapes is I never heard anything until all of a sudden this came. I'm like, we've been doing this for 4 years. We really have been actively soliciting. So maybe there is a better way to look at that. And it hurts my feelings that people think that we're trying to ram something down their throat. And I've had people that yell at me in the street, which is kind of funny because I don't know that I've ever given them a reason to yell at me. I think it's out of a sense of frustration, and people do have that. And it's a national politics play a role in the disposition of that too. I think keeping an even keel through this whole process and moving ahead. And I also promised my neighbors a dog park.
Okay, anybody else have additional comments, whether you're in order or not? I've lost track. Okay. We have another question submitted by Sabina Werner. The village has undertaken and is undertaking several large capital projects and has made significant policy changes over the past 5 years. In your opinion, which of these initiatives has had or will have the greatest impact on the community as a whole, and why would you say that is the case? And I think we're up to going back to Mr. Hunt opening the question.
I'm not sure I actually understand the question. It's a pretty broad question. There are a lot of capital projects that come up. And I'm not sure exactly how to even address that. We are looking to do everything to improve things, life in the village. We're looking to prioritize how we spend the money, and we're looking to enhance everything about it. By the way, also, we have a lot of loans outstanding. One of the things we have done in the past, recent past, was to refinance the loans that we have that were outstanding at a much better interest rate. So we have a lot of people keeping track. We've got a very gifted treasurer, which is brand new with this board wound up bringing on. And I think that, like I said, in terms of managing the village's money, especially for capital projects, I think we're doing a great job.
Okay. Rhea, it's your turn to respond.
Yeah, I'm having difficulty narrowing it down, so let me try to handle my response with a couple of subsections. One, the infrastructure improvements have been great, and I think are appreciated by everyone, all of the residents. Two, in terms of like policy changes, I believe that some of the actually initiatives that Jeffrey Allen is suggesting we do have actually been done by this board already. And those are some of the ones that I love. For example, they passed a law regarding, I think just this past year, about ensuring that sidewalks are put in anytime there's major improvements where sidewalks should go. And we did have a sidewalk put in on Elm. He's talked a lot about making things more friendly outside and pedestrian friendly and bike trails and the North County extension, the North County Trail. So for those of you who don't know, I apologize, but the Board of Trustees has done this amazing thing where it's not completely finalized, but the North County Bike Trail, which I'm a huge fan of, is going to extend from the library sort of behind the fields and into where the recreation center is. That's an amazing thing. It'll be safer for all of us to get on the bike trail, and it will also bring people from the bike trail into the downtown to, buy coffee and go to the stores. So to me, that is actually one of the more thrilling changes, which is both an infrastructure improvement and a policy improvement because it's expanding recreational use.
Okay. Anybody else have comments or responses to that? If not, I'm going to ask you if there are questions being posed by members of the community. And before we get to closing statements, if you're willing to accept additional questions, we will have them asked of you and in no particular order. Is that okay?
Someone asked me-
Is that okay with you as the candidates?
Someone asked how long Rhea has lived in Briarcliff Manor.
I'm sorry?
There was a question about how long Rhea has lived in Briarcliff Manor.
I don't know the answer to that, and I'm not sure it's even.
Want me to answer even though it's only specific to me, or should we all talk about how long we've lived here?
No, how long specific to you? Someone had asked.
Sure. So I have lived here for 6 years, and in those 6 years, I immediately started, in my first year here, I immediately started advocating for public school funding from the state because the Fair Funding Act had not been fair to mostly the students in Ossining, even though my children were not in the school district. I then served on 2 committees. I chaired the Census Committee, and I was a member of the Police Reform Task Force, which was mandated by the New York State Governor. And I actually authored the first draft of that report that went to the Board of Trustees. So in 6 years here, I've done a lot of volunteer work in the village, and I'm thrilled to be a part of this community. It's why I'm running. Thank you.
Ms. Halper, it's your turn to ask your questions. And please direct them to the person you want to respond first. You're muted. Go ahead.
Okay, okay. I wanted to direct this to Dr. Allen because of his previous comments. The thoughts are that you restrict people from mowing their lawns on certain days, or, you know, going on a weekly schedule by street, and not using gas blowers and so forth. Could you please expand on that?
Sure, happily. Having spent more time at home, I can say personally during my retirement, and wanting to enjoy some serenity in our own yard. I'm an avid gardener. I go out, and almost every day there's some lawn service with a 2-cycle leaf blower, disturbing not only the quietude, but blowing dust and exhaust over our property. I have no control over that. And if you were to tell me that I could go out at a certain time of the day or day of the week and play with my grandkids free of this intrusion, I would welcome it. And I think that it is conceivably possible to do that. It would require some cooperation with the lawn service companies, but I see no reason why we couldn't have an arrangement where parts of town could be served on certain days and others on alternate days. And then I would know that I could enjoy my property free of those intrusions.
I understand, Dr. Allen. However, this is a very green town. Everyone's got a lawn here. I believe in keeping my trees rather than cutting them down. And so I've seen the way during, especially this past year, how the village is unable to take away leaves in a timely manner. I spend a lot of money on my lawn trying to make it look presentable and beautiful. And then when the leaves come down, if they stay there too long, then unfortunately the lawn dies. I understand your point of view about this. However, everybody here, for the most part, has a lawn that needs upkeep. And I think that if you restrict people's usage of that, you're going to get higher prices for the lawn services, and you're also going to wind up with people who don't want to do their lawns. And
Ms.
that was
Alper,
just,
I'm sorry, I must interrupt you. You're
yes, that's my last
turning this
comment.
into a debate, so
No, that was my last comment.
we have other questions.
Yes.
Ms. Ola Sierra, if I pronounced your name incorrectly, my apologies, but I believe you have a question pending. Have you heard me? Well, I don't know if you're still on or not, but if so, you can come back with it later. Let me just check additional questions. It appears Ms. Nocier is no longer online. And I believe that's all the questions we have at this moment.
Aaron, it's John O'Leary. I have a question.
Please proceed.
This is to all the members, the candidates, excuse me. As a former elected public servant for 10 years, I'm well aware of a key component of electability. And that is and should be volunteerism to your community, to the entity of government that you're interested in running for. Could everybody please share a few examples of the volunteerism in our village to date? Thank you.
And let's take it in order, starting with Ms. Mallett.
Thanks. I might have already mentioned this, so I don't want to bore everybody, but as soon as I moved into town, I worked on the fair funding with the Asking Fair Funding group. We held press conference, and we reached out again using legislative advocacy to it was Senator Carlucci at the time, and Assemblywoman Gala, to try to get more money to the Asking schools because they were being unfairly, they didn't receive their fair amount. That was the very first thing I did. I just want to correct an impression because somebody earlier said they were running independently. I'm running independently too. But because I've worked for 2 committees, I was appointed by former manager Zegarelli to co-chair the census committee, the complete count committee here in Briarcliff. We held a public education forum. We did outreach to make sure that there's a very high self-response rate, so we can get the funding that we needed based on the numbers of who lives here in Briarcliff. And then I was also appointed to, or asked to serve on the Police Reform Task Force, where I already mentioned I helped author the final report. Through those committee memberships and through my volunteer commenting on codes, I actually showed up at public hearings at the very first time that this Board of Trustees started changing the property maintenance law, because I saw different ways they should be fixing it. And from that, I helped give my opinion and helped testify. I testified at public hearings and was asked to comment on many of the codes that were rewritten, which is why I have such a positive working relationship with members of the board. If you vote for me, it'll be a very easy transition for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Allen, would you like to add yours?
John, thanks for the question. I can honestly say during my career in commuting to the city and the high acuity of illness that my patients experienced, I really did not have enough time to commit to a town or village activity like I am now, and that's one of the reasons I'm running. I have participated in the various community band organizations, first in Pleasantville and now in Mount Pleasant. I play a euphonium. And as you know, the pandemic has severely curtailed that. When my kids were younger, various coaching activities, but I have not been able to devote any serious time to a regular commitment in the village. And this is my first one.
And Mr. Hunt, I think we know most of your village activities, but if you'd like to add anything, please proceed.
Sure, just briefly. I obviously a member of the Briarcliff Manor Fire Department for the last 16 years, mostly as an EMT captain of the EMS service for 8 years. As a matter of fact, if any of you have any further questions tonight and you do call for an ambulance, I will be the guy to come to your house tonight. And we can follow up, we can discuss a little bit further. And if you need to go to the hospital, I'll even take you there too. This is a great village. And I will tell you that one of the things that really does impress me about this village is that if you do want to get involved, there's not things that take a lot of time. And it's a matter of, again, it's a matter of priority, and everyone sets their own priorities, and I respect that. And, for me, it was important to me to be able to give back. And I work till midnight sometimes in my professional career, and, but it's all the choices that we make. And I applaud Dr. Allen for his good work, because I know that he has some unbelievably appreciative patients and families that think he's absolutely wonderful. And I applaud him for that. That's wonderful he's able to do that. And I'm glad that he's interested in giving back. And I hope that he'll find a way to be able to do that somehow.
Okay, we're starting to run a little late, so I'm going to take over again and update everybody on some recent developments. We are seeking volunteers to man voting booths so that we can have an in-person election as well as absentee balloting and meet the requests that we've received from a number of residents. We will need a minimum of 12 and probably more like 14 or 15 people, each to have a 2-hour shift out of our 6-hour voting period to participate in signing people in, checking them against the signatures on their voter registration forms, and confirm that they have cast their ballot, which will subsequently be counted. If we get that number of volunteers, we will proceed to attempt to have an in-person voting opportunity in COVID-safe provisions. The members of your executive committee had previously decided to go with an all absentee ballot. Multiple members of the committee are immunocompromised or have had or are suffering from COVID. Others have children in the under 4, under 3 age brackets. And we're concerned about the ability to do this safely. So we're working to get it fixed. If you'll bear with us, we'll do our best to make it happen. I have ordered the registration books from the County Board of Elections. I have ordered the forms for sign-in from a printer. And if possible, we will accomplish it. At this stage, we would like to introduce you to the caucus candidates that were nominated at the last meeting. Larissa Wayne Palmeno was chair. Kathy Bhattacharya, if you can hold up your hand, Kathy, as vice chair. Kim Izzarelli as treasurer. Kim will be replacing Zachary Giampa, who has graciously decided to step aside to open a position for a new member. And Brian Crowley as secretary. We also have 2 continuing members at large who are not elected by the caucus members, but are appointed by the chair and have agreed to continue serving, Clarissa Giosha and Ken Dengler. We will also need volunteers to circulate nominating petitions. But before we get to that, we're at the stage where I'm going to ask everybody for their closing statements. Dr. Allen, if you will start.
What's the
Okay,
time frame for that? I'm sorry.
Your
How much time
closing
do we have?
statements for Dr. Allen first.
I understand, just how much time do we each have?
Oh, I'm sorry, up to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Preferably 2 if you can make it shorter.
okay. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you to your caucus committee and the other candidates. And I appreciate the time to make my case. I realize my skill set and experience is not typical, and I would have to spend a certain period of time on a steep learning curve, accumulating knowledge about legal issues and various zoning issues, but I am committed to do that, and I'm a fast learner. And I think I can help the board because I have experience working as a member of a team in problem solving, and I can help analyze new information. Whether or not the inclusion of a physician on the board would provide a unique perspective and asset, I think is up to you, the voter, to decide. I think the dedication of my commitment is apparent by our long residency here, and our love as Kevin's is for the community that we've lived in the majority of our lives, my wife and I here in Briarcliff. Thank you for listening to me, and if you feel that I am a qualified candidate, I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you. Excuse me, Dr. Allen. Ms. Mallett, it's your turn to have a closing statement.
I'm sorry?
No, he's just.
I just said thank you.
Good.
Ms. Mallett?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you to the Executive Committee of the People's Caucus for giving me, all of us, this opportunity to have this discussion. And thank you to so many people in the community who came to be a part of this. I have explained all the reasons why I want to bring my government experience, my legislative experience, my advocacy experience to this position. What I haven't shared tonight is the reason why I'm running is because I love Briarcliff Manor. It is such a special community. It is not, it is not just the built form, right? It's not a community, we don't love it just because of the downtown, just because of the houses. We do love it because of the people that make up our community. And I love it also because of the incredible natural resources. And I just want to close by sharing something somewhat personal to all of you. The reason why I'm back in school studying land use is because of when I volunteered to help work on and comment on and research on wetlands law that was revised last year. Through that research, I was realized how important the natural resources are to Briarcliff Manor and I decided to change my career as an attorney to become a land use attorney. So whatever happens in this election, I'm grateful that the community has given me that as I pursue my new career. I hope I can also serve you as a member of the Board of Trustees as your new village trustee. So
Thank you. Mr. Hunt, it's your turn for a closing statement. And before you go ahead, I'm going to comment on something you said earlier. I'm not going to call for you to serve me in an ambulance tonight. So I'm happy to be able to.
Promise?
Promise.
Don't promise. You don't need to promise. We'll still
Okay.
come. Again, this is all a sobering experience for me. I get choked up when I even think about this. Again, the most important thing for me, really, this is the very, very first place that's ever felt like home. I moved around a lot as a little kid. We moved 7 times before I finished the 3rd grade. I grew up in East Chester. East Chester is a great place to be from. Off to college, moved 4 times in 1990 alone. Wound up moving here in 1997, and from the very first day, it started to feel like we had a place for our own to live. And Briarcliff has given back to me more than I can ever possibly repay. And even in the last couple of years, it has shown to me what an unbelievable place this is. We had an absolute tragedy in our family, and many of you might know what that is, but just between the people that reached out, and it's unimaginable. I was never one to ever try to ask for help, and it was never something I would ever do. And the outpouring of support that came during that time, during one of the worst times of my life, has lifted me and given me some sort of satisfaction. It's like, again, a debt I can't repay. Tony Carlick, who gave my nomination speech, was a big part of that. And so I come from a place of incredible gratitude, and it's actually sort of fun too. But that's actually a little bit sort of a side benefit in terms of just knowing that I really truly belong here. And this is a good part of it. This is not something that lasts forever. I don't know that I would seek a 4th term, but a 3rd term in the middle of all the stuff that's going on now, honestly, it would be to not finish it. I would feel a great sense of incompletion, and I'm hoping to be able to have that. And I look forward to listening to anybody who will talk to me. So thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. And Kathy Bhattacharya and Kim Izzarelli, we do not normally ask candidates for the Caucus Executive Committee to make any presentations, but if there's something you'd like to say to introduce yourselves to the community, we'll give you 1 minute each to do so. Kathy, you first.
Sure. So I'm Kathy Bhattacharya. I have lived here for over 14 years now. I am a lifelong member of Westchester County. I grew up in Irvington, and my family currently still lives in Hastings on Hudson. So I'm very familiar with Westchester. I have grown to really love this area and want to give back. So big reason why I have been wanting to be a part of the People's Caucus and volunteer more of my time just within the community is because of my willingness to do more to serve the community and to just be a part of it. I also volunteer. I'm on the advisory board of Riverkeeper, which many of you are familiar with. They advocate for cleaning up the Hudson River and keeping it clean. And I'm also on the board of directors of the Human Impacts Institute, which is actually based in Brooklyn. But they are big advocates of environmental education, and they do it through the arts. So I've been a proponent of that as well. A little bit more about myself. So I also graduated from Columbia University. I went to the business school and I have an MBA from there. My career has been in marketing. So I'm a marketing executive and mostly work in New York City, but I have been trying to get positions in the local area as well. It's just a little bit harder at the executive level to do that. And my latest passion, in addition to the volunteer work that I'm doing and my full-time position, is also starting a non-for-profit organization which is focused on environmental protection. So that's a little bit on me.
Thank you. Ms. Izzarelli, would you like to say something?
Sure. Thank you, Erin. I'm very pleased and honored to be nominated for the position of Treasurer of the People's Caucus Executive Committee. And I just want to thank the Executive Committee for tonight's meeting and all the hardships that you've had to endure through the pandemic and putting this program together tonight. I think it's a real testament to the strength of the People's Caucus as a Briarcliff institution for the past 100 years. I'm very excited to take on this position as treasurer, and my qualifications include serving the community as president of the Briarcliff Manor Public Library for 3 years now, and as a library trustee since 2013. And I also served as a member of the Village 2020 Complete Census Count Committee and on the Briarcliff Manor Police Reform Advisory Committee. And I also serve as president of Windcrest Condominium and on other nonprofit boards. I am familiar with the People's Caucus bylaws and processes and procedures, having sought nomination in the past as a village trustee on more than one occasion. And I guess really this is the reason why I chose to serve, is that I'm passionate about the voting process itself, having routinely volunteered long hours on election day as a poll monitor. My intent or hope is that we can make this process more inclusive and expand it and have more people participate in the community. That would be a goal for me. Professionally, my career includes work in auditing, accounting, marketing communications. I currently work as a marketing manager, and I host live webinars in Q&A formats with investment. I have a BA in business, International College, a Master of Science in Organizational Behavior from the University of Harvard, and a Master of Science in Education from Pace University. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. As part of this process, we discussed getting ready for an in-person meeting. I hope you will be one of the people who submit an opportunity to volunteer. We need people for at least a 2-hour session to man the voting booths. And subsequent to that, I will be preparing independent nominating petitions, which must be circulated among village residents. We need a minimum of 150 signatures so that the candidates who we vote for at the special voting meeting will be able to appear on the caucus ballot line in the village election on March 15th. Kathy, I hope you're in the same position to do that. I want to thank Zachary Giampa for stepping aside and opening up a position for Kim. And I'm stepping aside to open the position for Kathy Bhattacharya. My term ends April 1. I am pleased to have served the committee for 12 years. I hope I have served it honorably, and I will continue to do so to the end of my term. Thank you all. Please submit your information to me, your name, phone number, and emails. sternab@aol.com. If you don't mind, it's easier for me than the 5 different caucus emails that I need to use to be able to send out the 500 limited emails each time we do any mailing to anybody among the caucus. So that's my pitch to you. Thank you all for appearing. At this stage, Brian Crowley, would you please read the resolution regarding the candidates for the People's Caucus Executive Committee?
One moment, Aaron. I'm just trying to pull it up. The resolution to cast ballots. Aaron?
Yes, sir.
January 19, 2022, resolution to cast ballot for executive committee. Resolved that the secretary shall be directed to cast one vote for nominees. Larissa Wayne Palmero, Chair. Kathy Bhattacharya, Vice Chair. Kim Israeli, Treasurer, and myself, Brian Crowley, as Secretary, to serve as the caucus's executive committee for one-year terms commencing April 1st, 2022. Do I have a motion?
Somebody motion, please.
Joan Austin, I move.
Okay, and
Second.
do we have a second? Mr. O'Leary?
I'll second.
All right,
Thank you.
Mr. Austin, thank you. That motion is now approved, and the new executive committee members will take office on April 1st. Everybody who has put up on the lists that they're prepared to volunteer as a poll watcher, I can't respond to your phone number for that, so please provide me your name, address, email address, as well as your phone numbers. Again, sternab@aol.com. Do we have any other business that anybody would like to bring before the group?
Aaron?
Yes,
Aaron's Keith. Keith Austin.
go ahead, Keith.
I would be remiss if I didn't say words cannot express my gratitude and appreciation for all you've done for this institution for the last 12 years. And I can appreciate it more than almost anybody because I was the one that dragged you into it. But we really, you just done a fabulous job, and we thank you.
Keith, thank you for that. I told you that I owe you one. Someday I'll pay you back. I have enjoyed my 12 years. I'm pleased that it's coming to an end. It's time to turn it over to someone else. Thank you. Any other business that anybody would like to bring before the group? If not, the chair will exercise Robert's Rules of Order and without a motion, consider the meeting adjourned. Thank you all for attending. We appreciate
Thank you,
your involvement, and we're thankful for this process to continue to exist for another 110 years at least. Have a
Okay.
great night, everybody, and let's get going.
All right.
Thank you for your
I forgot-
service.
Sorry, I forgot one thing. On our website, there are forms for absentee ballots, which need to be filled out and filed either by mail or in a Dropbox, either at my home at 40 Tamarack Place or at Clarissa Gioscia home at 120 Tuttle Road. Thank you all again. And we actually got it done on time.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you,
Aaron,
Aaron.
we should- Aaron,
Nice work, Aaron. Thank you.
we should send out an email with the link to the ballot to the community.
We will be doing that.
Well, tell them that we'll do that.
Thank you. We will do that.
Thank you, Aaron.
Aaron, thank you for your service.
Thank
Good help.
you.
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
She's good.
All right.
Here, Jay.
God
All
bless Aaron.
Thank
right,
you.
Aaron, thanks again.
Thanks, Aaron.
I'm going to end the meeting now.